What's going on, everybody? Today I am here to talk to you about Marathon. I got to play the game for 8 hours over the course of 2 days over at Bungie headquarters. Shout out to them for flying me out. And I got to play against a bunch of other creators and streamers, and I have so much to talk about. Now, even though they did fly me out, this is not a sponsored video. I have no guidelines on what I can and cannot say when it comes to being positive or negative about the game. So this is my honest opinion. And there is a lot to talk about here. For those that don't know, Marathon was originally released in 1994 for PC and Mac, and it had 3 titles total. There were 2 sequels, so a trilogy. This game is Marathon in IP and universe only. It's a completely different game because this is a 2025 extraction shooter. So I'm going to tell you exactly how the game works, everything you need to know about the game, and then I'm going to show you some of my best moments or most favorite and intense moments from my actual gameplay with the game audio so you can really get a feel for what this game is like. I think you're really going to enjoy this video. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So let's start with the overall gameplay loop. Yes, this is an extraction shooter, and I like to think of it as a combination of 3 different games: Escape from Tarkov, Destiny, and even Apex Legends. And I'll explain to you why I feel that way. But essentially, the loop is you are in the lobby, you're building your loadout, you're choosing from 4 runners in my play session, but there's going to be 6 at launch, and we'll jump into exactly everything you need to know about those runners. But yes, you build your loadout and then you jump into the game with up to 2 friends, and you complete contracts, you do dynamic events, you fight against enemy AI, which are surprisingly challenging, and of course, other players as well. And then hopefully you extract out with all of the loot you grabbed on your mission, and you get to take that with you. But of course, if you're eliminated, you lose everything. So as we dive into more details, let's start with the runners. The runners are your characters, and you get to pick from 6 of them in the final launch, but again, I only played as 4. We have the Destroyer class, who goes by Locust, and each runner has a prime ability, a tactical, and 2 what they refer to as traits. Now, Locust is kind of your tankier, your fighter of the group. His prime ability is called Search and Destroy. It's where you shoot your actual regular gun at the enemy, and as you hit up to 3 shots, rockets will come out of your back and hit the enemy. He has a Riot Barricade where you can pull out a shield and block enemy fire, which was really cool. It goes into 3rd person. It looks really awesome. And then he has a Thruster, which allows him to just quickly dash across a certain amount of space, and then the Tac Sprint as well, which lets him sprint really fast. Then we have Void, who is kind of your stealthier, darker character. His prime ability is a smoke screen, which shoots out a bunch of smoke and makes you invisible and allows you to do things like revive teammates, capture objectives, complete quests, or just hide from the enemy. He also has active camo that you can activate at any point, and it actually works really well. You're pretty much impossible to see. And then a Shadow Dive, which is a movement ability, and a Shroud ability, which is another kind of stealth-based ability. Then we have Glitch. She kind of reminded me a little bit of Tracer from Overwatch, just in her aesthetic and kind of what her character is like. Her prime ability is Amplify. She can activate that, and then she moves really fast and has a little bit more health, and is just used to like flank enemies and really get the jump on them. Then she has Disruptor, where she shoots out like an orb of energy out of her hand, which damages enemies and shoots them far across the map. Then she has Microjets, which are kind of like just double jumping, and then her Power Slide. She can slide really, really far, and that one looks really cool. Then finally, we got to play as Blackbird, which is your kind of, let's say the enemy that gathers information from the battlefield. The prime ability is Echo Pulse. You'll activate that, it'll scan all around you, and it'll ping where the enemies are and give you a live ping on them for a certain amount of time. The Tracker drone, Blackbird will shoot out a little drone that will move along the floor and go and attack enemies. And then we had Interrogation and Stalker Protocol, which are 2 other kind of information gathering stealthy abilities. We played on 2 maps, Perimeter, which I cannot show you. This one was really, really cool. I can't show it to you though. And then we played on Dire Marsh, which I also really enjoyed. Dire Marsh was kind of a swampy area with lots of POIs, but darker. There was fog. It was a little harder to see enemies, which made for some intense moments for sure. At launch, there's going to be 4 total maps. There's going to be 1 more map that I know nothing about and didn't get to play, and then a 4th map which is what probably excites me the most about this game. This map is called the Marathon Ship, and it takes place in space. And they're still working on this, so some of this may change. But from what they told me and what I was able to gather, because they didn't give super specific details, once you reach a certain level in the game and you're a super high level, you'll be able to access this fourth map. So it is level gated. And once you get to that point, this map will be where the best players go, which means it also has the best loot. But it sounds like it's basically taking a raid from Destiny 1 or 2 and putting it into Marathon, but then adding in PvP elements, which sounds incredible. I know there's going to be various mechanics in this map that are not on any other map, and it basically sounds like a Destiny raid. So that sounds freaking awesome. I cannot wait to play that and just see what that looks like, especially because it takes place in space. So I think it's a totally different vibe than the other 3 maps. So stay tuned for more info on that. As soon as I know more, I'll share more. Let's talk about the weapons. So the gunplay. I mean, this is a Bungie game, right? They made Destiny. They made Halo. I don't think FPS shooting mechanics get better than those 2 games, and the same can be said for this. It feels a little bit more tactical than both Destiny and Halo, because it has to kind of fit in that extraction world, but it feels incredible, man. The guns feel great. They all feel really different. We had pistols, submachine guns. Some submachine guns used light ammo, some used heavy. We had various assault rifles, some DMRs, some snipers, of course, shotguns. The shotguns were really powerful. There's a double barrel shotgun in this game that if you get close to them, it sometimes only takes 1 or 2 shots and they're done for. When you do down an enemy, you can obviously loot and get all their weapons. So you're constantly kind of checking to see if this weapon is better than what you're having, and you're switching them out. But they felt great. You can not change attachments at this point. So that was one thing I didn't really like. You'll get weapons that have like a scope on it or a silencer, and you cannot remove those attachments. Those are stuck on the weapon. And that kind of helps separate the weapon class, because it is a tiered gear system. So green, blue, purple, and so on and so forth. The higher the different the color, the higher the weapon. So I'd really love to be able to mess with the attachments. So we'll see. As far as PvP, yes, there's a lot of PvP in this game. That was definitely a major focus for my time with the game, and it was my favorite moments for sure. At the end of this video, before we wrap it up, I'm going to show you a few of these engagements that I got in PvP with full game audio, uninterrupted, no commentary, so you can really feel what it's like to play this game. But yeah, PvP feels really good. I never got into a fight that I felt was unfair. Definitely got outplayed multiple times by people with higher gear than me, and I was dropped really quickly, but I knew that was just because they were more leveled than I was. When you eliminate an enemy, they'll drop kind of like a pod or like a big bag on the ground, and that's what you use to loot all their gear. If you're dropped, you can get revived both when you're crawling on the ground, and even if you're eliminated after you're downed, and you can still get revived by your teammates. It just takes a little bit longer. So that's cool. Once you get eliminated, you're not out of the game as long as you have teammates that are alive. PvE was really, really challenging, and I did not expect that. There were times where I did feel the PvE was just kind of unfair and overpowered and just getting swarmed, because I would be so focused on these PvE enemies because they were so challenging that I'd get jumped by other creators that were at the event and destroyed. So that was frustrating. There were times where I think they could have scaled the PvE difficulty down just a bit, but you know, it's not the end of the world. And how you level up in this game, your best way is obviously you're going to be gaining XP, and that's going to level up your actual like base level. But you also are obviously the gear economy, the weapon economy, the item economy in this game is affected by what people are looting. It's affected in real time, just like Tarkov. So if you want to stand a chance at this game, you need to constantly be leveling up your gear and constantly be saving up money to purchase new gear. You'll unlock different gear that you can purchase by completing various contracts and assignments, and there's a ton of those. So you're essentially dropping into the map, completing contracts, eliminating players, participating in dynamic events that give you unique rewards, and then using all that stuff when you extract out to become stronger. Really addictive gameplay loop, and again, I really see a lot of potential with Marathon. And finally, let's talk about the art style, man, before we jump into my final thoughts on the game and then we get into the gameplay. But the art style is so unique. They were inspired, they actually said, by Breath of the Wild, which is an odd inspiration, but when you see it, you'll totally get what I mean. Some of the environments do look like they're out of Breath of the Wild. It's obviously much higher fidelity, but it has a really unique art style. It's not cell shaded, but it looks almost animated, and it fits the universe well. And speaking of the universe, the world building in this game will definitely be present. I found that they're definitely telling a unique and engaging story here. And when I'd like heal myself, or I'd use a specific item, or I'd unlock a door, I found myself being so curious about like how that item works that I'm using, because some of the healing and the items you use are so unique and so futuristic. And I'm thinking, like, in the lore of that game, what is that item actually doing? So just really, really cool, man. And I did want to, one real quick, I want to talk about how I feel like it's inspired by Apex. When I say that, I really just mean like the item management and the combat a bit. So the combat feels like Apex because you have special abilities that feel a lot like Apex abilities that you'd see in that game. Definitely inspiration there. But then your healing and shield management system is identical to Apex. Like you'll pop shield cells and your shield will go up 1 or 2 bars based on how many you're using, and then the health kits react the same way. And it literally is straight out of Apex Legends. So it was really seamless for me, and it worked fantastic. So overall, my thoughts on this game, I think it has a ton of potential. I just have 3 big negatives. 1, the enemy AI I think needs to be scaled down a bit. 2, there's a heat system, which essentially acts as stamina. Because you play as these, like, you're not a biological being, you're kind of like an android, and the android reacts based on heat. So when you're sprinting, your heat meter will go up. When it fills up, you can no longer sprint, and you're stuck moving really, really slow. When you're dashing, when you're doing these hardcore abilities, your heat meter rises, and when it fills up, you can't move anymore. You can, but you're very, very slow. So in a game like Tarkov, movement isn't as important. So obviously in Tarkov, you run out of sprint, you're moving slow, that's fine. Because in Tarkov, you're dropping enemies in 1, 2, maybe 3 shots. But in this game, because you have a shield and just the nature of the game, the combat scenarios and the engagements with enemies last a lot longer. So when you're in a long combat situation that may be like 10 straight seconds of you and the enemy firing at each other, and you run out of sprint and you're just stuck moving very slow, it feels very restrictive, and I didn't like it at all. I think they need to really give you some more room to sprint around and move. Movement seems really important in this game, and it was really restrictive. And then 3, I will say that the visibility. There were times where I would be shot by enemies, or enemies would be sniping me from a distance, and I had absolutely no idea where they were. That's obviously really frustrating, but if I'm being honest, man, those are my 3 negatives. I think the game has a ton of potential. I'm very excited. I do plan on playing this at launch, and I think you all will really enjoy it. PlayStation needs to nail this because they had that big focus on live service games, and they abandoned a bunch of them, including Last of Us Factions, which will haunt me for as long as I live, that we're never going to get that game. But they need to nail this because they need a big multiplayer title on PlayStation, a big first-party multiplayer title, which they don't have, and they need that. So I'm hoping it works out. I'm hoping Bungie can bring extraction shooters into the mainstream. And yeah, I hope y'all found this informative. We're going to now jump into my favorite part of this video, which is our uninterrupted gameplay sections. I'm going to break down 3 different engagements for you and tell you what happens and then show you what happens. All right, so this first scenario, we were moving across, going to an objective, and then we heard the enemies, we jumped them, and it was pretty cool how this played out, and I'll just kind of let the footage speak for itself, but check this one out.
Holding ground.
All right, and this next one, this one was really, really fun. We were stalking an enemy team that we knew was in this base, and we knew they were looting up and then getting ready to extract. So thankfully, I had a sniper on me. I pulled out the sniper, I dropped one of them, and then I knew the other 2 were in this building, so we rushed up, and I'll let the footage show you what happens next. And finally, this one is a long one, but I promise you, you're going to want to stay till the end of this. I think we team wiped 3 teams. It was absolutely insane. I got downed a bunch, then revived, then downed and revived. And the clutch that my teammate pulled off at the end of this is one for the history books. It was insane. So, yeah, check this one out. And then after this, make sure y'all like and subscribe. I hope y'all appreciated the video, and we're going to end with this final scene, all right? Appreciate y'all. Have a great day. Peace.
War machine coming through.
Reinforcements detected.
Hold up, reloading.
Deploying back. Go back down.